Alright, so we'll get started again. So now what we're going to do is go into some of the tips for search engine optimization that you can do with your own website, just to really help the rankings improve with your site. Okay, so the first thing you've really got to consider is, what do your users want to see? What's the user intent for your website? So the first thing really is to keep their intent top of mind. So when you're writing your content, when you're structuring your headings, when you're structuring the layout of your site, what is it that your users want to see? And when they're making a decision about the service or the product that you provide, what do they need? And really consider that when you structure your content. The key thing is, don't get tunnel vision, so don't think about sort of self-promotion too much. Think about sort of what it is that they need. Make it a really useful site, make it engaging to the users. And also consider that you may not have the one type of user. You may have residential clients, industrial clients. You may have all different types of users. Sometimes it's even worth considering having a separate website or even a separate page that engages those users differently, because they'll use different language and they'll use different ways to search what it is that you provide. So some of the things that we do for our clients, and we suggest that you do yourself with your website, is to do an audit to really assess what it is that you need to provide to your audience, what it is that you currently have, what's lacking, sort of the improvements that you want to do. So sort of things, you can consult with experts, but also one of the best sources of information will actually be your target audience. So if you can actually speak to users directly and understand what it is that they want to need. Now, regarding content, it's really important to consider the content that you put on your site. So some of the things that we recommend to our clients is, when you write your content, write it with lots of variety, lots of different words, synonyms, things for what you do, as well as providing a good user experience. When you're writing for the web, and I used to be a copywriter for 12 years, one of the things that you need to really consider is lots of headings and breaking up the content. You don't want just one big slab of text, because people look at the web differently. People have different requirements when they're on a PC or on a mobile device. So typically I don't necessarily have more than 200, even 100 to 200 words without a heading or some sort of title to break it up. Using bullet points is good, but also using full sentences is good for Google. And also consider the sort of keywords that you're using. So for example, say you do flooring, and you do timber flooring, you do bamboo flooring, you do other types of flooring. If you mention the word flooring, even if you're mentioning timber flooring in front of it or bamboo, the word flooring shouldn't be mentioned too many times, because it can be considered spam. So if you have a common word in common with some of the other keywords, it's good to consider what sort of percentage you're using that keyword when you're writing text. Generally what we recommend is keeping that repetition under 1% for the amount of text that you have. The other thing is, you want to stand out, so you want people to actually want to read your copy as well, and Google does take that in consideration. I mean, you have bounce back rates for particular pages, which means someone will go into that page on your website, and if they get bored or they get turned off, they'll leave straight away, and Google takes those factors into account. So you want to make all of the pages and content that you have on your site engage people to click through other areas of the site. You want to have a teaser, if you will, to engage them to click through to other areas of the site. And often you want to include some sort of interlinking and links in the content that you're writing. So if you have a content management system and you're writing a news article, you want to link it to other areas in your site. So you want to, I guess, hyperlink one of the words in there. Say you do surgery, there might be a particular keyword. You want to hyperlink that to the correct page in your website. And you also want to have some teasers, like find out more information here, hear a horror story, or whatever it is that can engage your users a bit more. And the other thing that Mark was covering earlier, when we had that the search results in Google, and there was sort of a spray colour over that, that's heat mapping. So it's where people's eyes move in Google. And he mentioned that you can stand out a little bit if you have a search result that has an image next to it, and that can sometimes happen with blogs. So what you want to do, and it's what Stina markup is if you can get your news articles and your blogs ranking, it'll make you stand out to the other content on the page. Because they may just see, company, 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 and then there's this interesting article and an image, and it might encourage them to click through to you and then browse your site first. So that's another thing to consider. And the other thing is, I don't know how many pages I've written about us. We're good. We offer quality services. It's the same stuff rehashed on every website. So if you can make it a little bit different, what is really special about you guys? You know, what is special about your business? What do you offer differently to your competitors? Why would people choose you over the other businesses that exist? So instead of, you know, we offer quality service, it'd be something like, you know, we offer 24/7 service, we have a guarantee, or things that are different about your business. And at the end of the day, if you ever get stuck, I mean, we do recommend that the majority of your site is written by a search engine copywriter, because they will write most of your site so that it is the correct proportions, percentages, and it's professionally written. But this is just stuff for you to keep in mind when you're writing your own content, like articles, blogs, and those sort of things, because it will really help enhance your site. If you do something wrong here, you can have some problems with your rankings. It actually happened to one of our clients in the dental industry. He wrote a blog and there was a bit of duplicate content from another page on his website. It wasn't written particularly well and it did affect the rankings of his site. So our team got notified and we had to go in and give him some advice on how to write it differently in future and correct it. So you can actually make a mistake that can cost you rankings with how you write your articles and content on your site. Google actually put out some article writing considerations, because you don't want to just write fluff articles that have no meaning. I mean, you're obviously in business and you're an expert at what you do, so you want to write something that's really based on your knowledge and proven facts, not just fluff. So a couple of the questions, and you can have a look at this in your own time, that Google would ask would, you know, would you trust the information that's presented in the article? What sort of sources have you used to back up that information? That sort of stuff makes a big difference to users, because they will consider whether it's a credible article. And if they find that you are often the source of credible articles, then they'll revisit your website. So again, that's another way that you can encourage revisits, is by having good quality content. So it's not good just to chuck anything on there, because it will affect your rankings and it will affect your user engagement. And we have actually seen this. I have a bit of a play with it with our Extra website, because I can see all the stats nationally, and I can see sort of when I put something up, whether it works, it doesn't work. We can actually see conversion funnels. So you can see if someone came through to a particular article, then they went to your contact page, or if they left straight away. So you can sort of judge how each thing's working. So it's another thing I would recommend, is actually checking your stats and seeing, once you've written something, what sort of effect did it have on the users, because then you can see what worked and what didn't work. Now, in regards to linking, you want to be really careful, like I said. So get that page rank checker, have a look at some of the websites that are proposing to link back to you, and just have a look at the quality of the sites. If they have, you know, a good page rank, so say they've got a page rank of 8 or 9, that'll be awesome if they're linking back to you. Typically, things like, you know, educational institutions, memberships, those sort of things, we'll go through a few of those here. So these are sort of the questions you want to ask. Are you a part of any organisations, accredited groups, anything that's relevant to your industry? So you don't want to do a JCPenney and get all these universities to link to you if it's not relevant. Are you involved in any environmental community initiatives, local government, any charities that you sponsor? If they can link back to you, that would really help. And who comes up for Google searches in your industry? So give that a bit of thought. Are there any alliances or business opportunities where you can have that sort of link? And if you get a yes to any of those, ask them. You know, can you have a link back to our website? The other thing that you want to consider, like I said, is you can't just have all this traffic coming to your website and then you have a crap experience when they come to your website. So if your website is slow, you know, you've got load time issues, people will leave. I'm really bad at that, actually. If something it takes too long to load, I just move on to the next thing. So it's really important to consider the site speed, how your site is built. If people go to particular pages, are there broken images and links? It all affects your image. It's as if they rocked up to your office and your door was hanging off its hinges and there was a smashed window. It's the same sort of thing with online presence. Meta tags, so they're sort of the descriptions that you have behind the scenes. I can't tell you how many companies I've Googled, and then in Google, the meta description is what you see in the search results. And I've seen like blanks or crosses or weird explanations. Your meta tags, meta descriptions are sort of the foundation of the site, so you want to do it properly. Generally, your provider that you're working with should do that for you, but always good to double check. The other thing is labeling. So when you are say you're adding a news article to your website, you have the ability to add in an image, and you can add a caption or a label to that image. That's always good. You want to label things properly, because that's how the search engine reads. They will read all the labels, all the things that you put on the page, so that's really important. The other thing is tracking. So like I mentioned earlier, you want to be tracking your rankings, but if you are trying to check your own rankings, make sure that you're logged out of Gmail or Google, because if you try and check them, it'll just basically remember all the sites that you've seen before. So you want to make sure that you're logged out, and sometimes you have to clear your cache and history so that you can see accurate results, or just go to a new computer or a new browser. The other thing that you want to do, like I said, is you want to analyse your results and sort of help that to, I guess, form your business decisions based on what's working and what's not working. The other thing that you want to do, and we'll go through this in the second half, is optimising your social media. So you want to make sure that your social media actually mentions your website address, because you want people to click through. If you have that strong connection, as I mentioned earlier, Facebook has 9 out of 10. It's really good if people are clicking from Facebook back to your site. So you want to have that sort of connection between all of your social media. Because ultimately, although Facebook has options to add in contact us and all those sort of call to actions, you want them to come back to your website, because that's where you've got the most information about why you're unique, why people want to buy from you, why people want to contact you. And you've got all your contact details there. Okay, the other thing we need to really consider, and this is more prevalent now that the Pigeon algorithm came out, the Pigeon one was to do with local search. So you want to make sure that you're featured in local directories with your right business name, you've got your website address in there, things like the white pages, all those things online. You want to make sure that your business has the proper presence there. The other things you want to do is you want to focus on the right goals. You don't want to be spamming people. You want to make sure that you've got a very good local presence. So if you're a restaurant or certain things, or in hospitality, you've got things like TripAdvisor, Yelp, all those sort of things. You want to find what's relevant to your industry. What sort of online directories exist for your industry, and making sure that you're listed on there properly. And the other thing is, I guess, considering reviews, and we'll go through that in the social media section, but Google+, a lot of the forums that are out there, you want to consider if you've got a lot of negative reviews out there, it's not great for your business. If you don't have any reviews out there, it's not great for your business. So you really want to optimise the good reviews and good content that you have on the web. And also, if you do have some negative reviews, which happens regardless because there's angry people in the world, you want to also have good reviews out there that balances out the bad reviews. So it brings me into the next section. Before I go on there, is there any questions regarding those tips? No? Okay. So what we'll do is we'll move on to the AdWords, so talking about what the ads are and where they have their place. We do search engine optimization, we do ads, we do them for ourselves as well. They have their place. So the ads or the pay-per-click are the sponsored links that you see at the top and on the side. So they can be quite costly. Like some I've seen, the most expensive I saw was $90 per click, and that was in sort of finance-related industry. So some can be quite expensive, and then some can be quite cheap depending on the competition. So how it works, it is a bid system. We'll go through. Okay, so what you need to know about the ads. It is a bid system, so basically you can create a Google account yourself and you can start advertising on Google. It's a bit tricky at first because there's lots of screens and lots of things to do, but basically you decide what keywords you want to come up for in Google, and you have a budget assigned. Every time someone clicks on you, it costs you a certain amount of money. So say you put a budget of $50 a day and every click costs you $1. Once you've maxed out at 50 clicks, your ad disappears off Google. So the thing that the ads do is it allows you sort of a short-term solution. It can be quite costly, especially for more competitive industries. It generally has its place when you're doing sort of a quick promotion or something you need to get out quite quickly. Some people use it in the interim before they start to get organic rankings. So at least they've got some sort of presence in Google. So that's generally where it comes into use. Generally, organic rankings is a longer-term strategy. So having that presence in the main area of Google is a longer-term strategy. It generally delivers a better return on investment. If you were to pay for the amount of exposure that you get with organic with the ads, it could be 20 times the cost. It's quite expensive. Also, the other thing with the ads is you may be paying for your competitors to click on you. You may be paying for children to click on you. There's certain elements of people that aren't relevant to you that you're paying for that lead. And as I mentioned earlier, the metaphor that I use is it's like a newspaper. So you've got your articles and your ads. The credibility really is with the articles, and the articles is that organic area of Google, the main area of Google. The ads is like the ads in Google. This is actually a screenshot of one of my clients' results. So it shows, obviously no names mentioned, but it shows the difference between organic search and pay-per-click. And this client here was spending about, I think, $20,000 in 6 months on AdWords, and he was spending like a quarter of that with the organic search. So if you have a look, I just want to point out a few things. I don't know if you can see it, but I'll read it out anyway. This is the organic search, so this is a screenshot of the results. We can actually see how many pages they look at, what the bounce rate is, how many goals were completed, how many, I guess, forms were completed on the website. So if we look at the organic, they had 33,254 organic traffic or people coming through to the website. If you have a look at the bounce rate, it was 17%, which means people didn't just look at one page, they looked at quite a few different pages when they're on the site. If you have a look at the amount of conversions, it was 1,098. So out of that 33,000, 1,098 came through, filled in a contact form. It doesn't measure whether they called them, but we can measure the contact forms. If you look at the ads for a similar spend, they only had 325 people come through. The bounce rate is, I can't read that, but it's about 30%, so it was a high bounce rate, and they only had 7 contact forms filled in. So we've typically found that with the ads, people spend less time on the website, they're less likely to convert, and generally there's less traffic overall. So that's what we found, just looking at quite a few different results. And we've had the benefit of seeing people that spend the same amount on each, and generally they get a lot better return on investment from the organic search, from what we found. So I guess it depends on industry. This is a highly competitive industry, by the way. So there's quite a few articles that talk about where people click when they go to Google, and as we mentioned earlier, generally it's under 30% will click on the ads. So it's just a bit of an article about the ads versus the organic search. Generally the ads tend to be a quick fix, like something you do initially or for a short campaign, whereas the organic search is more long-term. I just want to quickly mention remarketing. Has anyone ever been searching on the web and they keep seeing this same ad like pop up wherever they go? Anyone seen that? Yeah. I've been stalked by a travel website for the last couple of months. Basically what remarketing is it's a way of doing advertising where if you visit a website, there's a cookie that registers that you've gone to that website, and then you'll go to other websites or you search something similar and that ad keeps popping up. I've now got it coming up in apps on my phone and everywhere. So that's what remarketing is, so if you've ever wondered what that is. In terms of remarketing, there's a bit of a graph of how it works. Basically, you've got your user over here, interested user, visits your website, leaves your website, and then your retargeting starts here. So that's where they're later looking something else, or they're searching keywords. So there's different ways that you can make it work. It can be that they search related keywords and then your ad pops up, and then your ad comes through again, and either they click through or they get really annoyed, which a lot of us do, and ignore you completely.
I actually, it's funny, I read an article yesterday, they did a survey, and about 12% of respondents actually said they got that annoyed with it, that they physically rang the company and told them to stop following them with the ads. Right? Yeah. So it's just, sort of the negative side of it.
We haven't seen much evidence of it really working that well, so we don't highly recommend it, but it's something you just try it. I mean, it's different for every industry, and it depends how you do it. Like if you have a really cool, funny sort of ad and it keeps popping up, maybe it'll work well for you, or maybe it's sort of a branding technique. I guess it depends on your budget, but overall your budget should initially be focused on, in my opinion, it should be having the right website, having somewhere where they can go initially, and then focus on all these other things later or try them out later, or as you go. I hate remarketing, I really do. So we're going to get into a few tips regarding the ads. So if you do pay-per-click advertising with Google or any sort of advertising, keep in mind your budget and sort of what you're going to get for that budget. So if you're setting a target of, I'm only going to spend $100 a day on ads, and one of your ads costs $90, you're only going to get 1 click a day. So you've got to consider sort of what your budget is, how competitive it is, what it costs, and that sort of thing. You also want to consider your keywords. So we had a client that came to us, and it's fine for people to do their own ads. Like you're basically not paying anyone commissions, which is a good thing. So you're not paying anyone's time, you're not paying commissions, you're only paying the time of your staff to do it. But if someone's inexperienced, and we found it was the case with this company, they had someone that was paying for ads for unrelated terms or paying for an ad for Perth, WA. So it can be quite costly if you're optimising for the wrong ads, the wrong keywords. And you've got to keep in mind the purpose as well. What is the purpose of your advertising, and is it really going to work for you? The other thing that we found was a bit of a trap with the ads. We typically didn't offer any pay-per-click advertising to our clients. We only offer it to existing clients now with no commissions and no extra charges, because a lot of people are getting ripped off in this industry, unfortunately, by resellers. There's some resellers that will basically either do the wrong thing. They'll build you a landing page which is not formulated properly for Google, so it affects the rankings of your whole site. So we found that happened. The second thing we found happen is they don't disclose the commission, so there'd be a huge commission. So say it was $1 per click, they would charge you $4 per click. So something we were finding with this industry was that the ads wasn't very transparent, and it's not very regulated, so the people that resell the ads are basically bumping up the cost, so they make lots of money from it, which is fine, but it's not that transparent to someone who doesn't really understand it. So the other thing that they were doing is they were creating these phone numbers to say, look, this is how you can track your ad. But then once you stop with that advertising with that company, they take the phone number, so any follow-on calls that you get were going to them and not to you, not to your business. So that was just a warning we put out to our clients, so you're welcome to check that out. The other thing I would really like to highlight is that no one should guarantee you anything in regards to Google or the online space, even the ads. So Google put out an announcement saying that Google can't even guarantee you a spot in the ads. So if you're paying, say you're paying $5 per click, someone comes in and pays $6, they're going to be above you. So there's no guarantee that someone can come in tomorrow and put more money and get on top of you in Google Ads. It's the same with the organic section of Google. No company should guarantee you a spot. If they do, it's a big warning sign. So this is an article that came out in 2012. There was a company in Sydney called Publicity Monster. This was all over the news because Google actually came back and commented. They said that this company has been stripped of their accreditation. No company is allowed to guarantee any places in Google or in the ads. So that was a pretty interesting article. There's a few articles that I've put in here that are quite interesting regarding online spend. And there's also one from the Fair Trading Office regarding search engine optimization and this industry. One of the reasons we're actually doing this seminar, and you notice there's no real selling of X or anything in it, it's just education, because we get so many people come back to us that have had problems, either websites not ranking, they've had black hat techniques going on, they've been ripped off by different providers, and it's a horrible industry in some ways because it's not regulated enough. So it's one of the reasons that we actually do the seminar. And this is an article that came from them talking about this sort of industry and the unregulations. Any questions?
We've got an industry where we fill out, start again. You want to put an advert into a magazine, it's a mining magazine or something, right? And they offer you a web page as well. And often it's very badly constructed.
Yeah.
They ask for us in artwork and content, and mismatch the pictures with the content, and it's all messed up. But they're still linking to us, right? What happens if they lose their accreditation and get kicked off?
In terms of the actual provider of the website?
Well, their content's wrong, or they might
break
the rules themselves. Right?
Yeah, it can affect your whole network. So if you have a provider like that they're linking to your site and they've actually built you a site and they're doing anything black hat, it can actually poison the network.
So how do you disassociate from this stuff?
It's a tough one. It's case by case. I mean, I can talk to you separately about your scenario, but generally we've had clients that have come on board with us and we've actually to check the quality of all their links. We've actually gone through and checked all their backlinks and we found a few issues. There was one provider in Perth that had created a links page and that all their clients were linking to that links page, but it wasn't set up properly, so it was actually causing issues for rankings in the whole network. So we actually had to write to them to get our client removed from that links page. So yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a case-by-case sort of scenario, but yeah. Cool. Any other questions?
Who do pay-per-clicks work for?
I've seen it work for some medical. I've seen it work for like sort of short-term promotions at retail. It really depends on sort of the purpose. Again, it's something you kind of have to trial because it could be different for every sort of business. And when we found it, we've done a few ads obviously, and we found some of them will work, some of them haven't. It also depends on the content in the ad, what you're targeting, what keywords you're focusing on. Yeah, there's a lot of factors. Sometimes it's just, you just got to try it. You can try with a small budget and see how you go.
So just do it with a small budget for short term, just do an evaluation, put it straight away, you're not committing for any length of time.
No. So, I mean, you can set sort of time frames for the campaign. You can see that all in Google. Sorry, is another question?
Are you familiar with the Ferret website?
Ferret, yeah.
Is that good, bad?
I've seen Ferret has good rankings. You know that Ferret where they list, it's like a portal site. I've seen it before, and it's generally like sort of engineering industry. I've seen it. I don't know about whether it's Black Hat or anything like that, but I've seen it's had some good rankings. It's been around for a long time, so it's got domain credibility. But we just, like I said, we just really assess it on a case by case with clients and just see if it's okay there. Any other questions?
You mentioned the page rankings, and obviously Game Kills is demo earlier on. What's the average in Australia? What's classed as okay?
It's hard, there's no real average, but I do personally tend to look at a site that's under 3 and think, oh, depending on, I mean, if it's a small sort of, a small kind of company, then maybe you never expect to be at a 5 or whatever. But if you say a 0 or a 1, maybe there's a bit of concern there. Yeah. Any other questions?
Paper Click, there was a while there where it really escalated in the cost, like something that was $10 over a year suddenly became $40 or $50, so
Yeah.
everyone's piling in. Has that started to rationalise now? Like, is it not escalating as quickly as it was?
Yeah, it depends on the market and depends on the demand at that time. So it may be that a lot of advertisers in your industry, a lot of your competitors at that time were really prepared to pay lots of money, so therefore it drove up the demand, and obviously demand and cost is related. So that probably would be about that. Hopefully they would regulate it because it seems a bit excessive if some are at $40, $50 a click, but we've seen that long term for a lot of keywords, being at such an exorbitant price.
It's very smart on Google's behalf because they've sort of created this economy, which is, and the more and more people jump into it, the long-term trend does look like it's continuing to go up. So.
But yeah, we've seen it go up and down. I mean, even for our sort of our keywords like online marketing, which is something we rank for, if we were to pay for that, I think I worked it out the other day, we would pay $300,000 for the amount of visibility we get from that ranking in Google. And that hasn't changed, so it just goes up. So it's interesting. Any other questions? Okay, so one thing we do warn about, it doesn't matter who you're with, whether you're one of our clients, you've got a few in the room, or you're with someone else, just make sure that you do your homework. If anyone that talks to you regarding this stuff, just make sure you ask certain questions, just so you don't get burnt. Because I've been at Exeter for 6 years, and the amount of people I've met with in 2008, 2009 are now coming back now, and I'm hearing so many horror stories. It's one of the things we hate to hear. I mean, if another provider suits you, that's fine, but just make sure you're asking the right questions so that you get the solution that you're after. The other thing you want to consider too is whether to outsource the search engine optimization. As we went through earlier, there's so many algorithm changes all the time. How do you keep up to date with it? I mean, we can't even keep up to date with it as one person. We have a full team behind us. So some of the things you want to consider is it's virtually impossible in-house for you to keep up with all the optimization of your website. But the things that you can keep up to date with, which is writing those articles, making sure your social is good, there's a few things that you can do to really help. The other thing is you want to consider what sort of results you want to achieve. So if you're a small sort of organisation, you're quite locally based, you don't really need a lot of traffic or anything, then maybe you don't need to do search engine optimization on a larger scale, and you're just okay with getting the traffic that you're getting. The other thing you want to consider is you don't know what you don't know, so you don't know what the opportunity cost is if you did it properly. So you may have, maybe doing it in-house and getting some good traffic, but what happens if one day you're blacklisted and you're off Google completely? Then what happens? Especially if you're in the competitive industries, if you're anything to do with finance, health, real estate, what else is there that's really competitive? Cosmetic surgery, dental, home loans, personal loans, anything to do with that sort of industry, you want to be extremely careful what you're doing, because one mistake and you could literally go back to dinosaur age with your rankings. And the other things you want to consider as well is you've got a lot of competitors all trying to do this stuff in Google, so you've got to consider having sort of the best possible competitive edge by how you actually build and maintain your rankings for your website. Just want to give you an idea of what's in the market and what the difference is between basic SEO, search engine optimization, and sort of the extra edge that you can get. So to give you an idea, basic SEO, generally they'll give you a sort of a cheaper website. You'll write most of your own content, it'll be standard web design, you'll have standard code, you'll have basic hosting, which could mean that sometimes your website's down or sometimes it has bugs. The support, there'll be no warranty or ongoing support. Any monitoring of your site is generally reactive, so it's only if you write to your provider and say, oh, I've got an issue with that website. The expertise is generally basic. So what they do is they set you up. They just basically set you up with the basic search engine optimization, which might be fine for a lot of people. If you're in a competitive industry or you want a little bit more rankings and results, what you can get is make sure you're getting search engine properly written copy, especially for regulated industries, because if you say anything wrong, they generally come down on you. You want a design that is conversion orientated, so you want a design that encourages people to click through so you actually get conversion. You want fast download and display of your website, because if you do have any slow issues with your site, it can affect your rankings. You want optimal Google-friendly hosting. Google will not bring people to a website that's down, so you want to make sure that your website's up most of the time. You want to make sure that you've got software and resources on hand behind the scenes checking for any sort of issues with your website or defacement. So hacking and all those sort of issues can be quite prevalent today. The other thing is you want a proactive team. So you want someone really focusing on what's going on with Google and making the changes. Because like I said, like one of our clients, they did something wrong with their blog and we picked up on it and made sure that it wasn't affecting the rankings. But if you get to that too late, what can happen is you can go backwards with all your rankings. Once you're blacklisted, and we've had several clients blacklisted before they've come on board with us, we basically had to change the domain name and start again. That all the credibility they had with that domain name was just reduced to nothing. It was that bad that we actually had to change it. So that's sort of the worst that can happen. We haven't seen it that often, thank God, but it does happen. And the other thing too, like we said, is you can't always get these updates from Google. So you have to have someone that's basing it sort of on experience of like what's happened with other clients. And you've got to consider all factors. So what a lot of companies will do is they put your website, they'll put some meta tags, they'll put some keywords in there, but they don't consider both on-site and off-site. They don't consider defacement, they don't consider security issues, they don't consider the hosting environment. All of that affects your Google rankings. Most people don't know that. And the other thing is you want to be dynamic and responsive. If Google makes a major change to an algorithm, you want to make sure that you make that change on your website straight away so that you don't get any penalties. So we've got brochures, these are in your bags, I'm not going to go through them, but basically the risks and how to compare different providers, that's all in your bags. Before I get into any tips, are there any questions so far? In assessing your current provider and in choosing a new provider, the questions you want to ask, and this is to prevent any issues, what's their time in business? Are they going to be around to support you long term? Because if they go out of business, you're left in the lurch. And you want to check what sort of experience they have, because every company nowadays, even a backyard IT guy, is saying that he can do SEO. So you need to be able to determine for yourself, am I actually getting search engine optimization that will work for my business, or is it just sort of the starting point? And will they be there to maintain it long term? So these are the questions to ask. And also what sort of price it is, what value you're getting for money. They're all questions I would ask. I used to do my own SEO. 12 years ago, I had my own marketing consulting company. So I built my own website. I put, optimised it for Google, and it ranked okay back then. But nowadays, it doesn't cut it. Like the amount of changes you can make, like you can actually make a few wrong changes and it gets blacklisted, like I mentioned. So it used to be easier. Now it's a lot harder. The other questions you want to ask is sort of the development and work philosophy. So what software is used, and we'll get into that with web development, some of the things to consider regarding how your website is built, and sort of the quality process and how it's supported. So do you have 24-hour support? Do you have anything in the background that will check if my site's hacked? And these are the risks. So the major risks, and this is some I've seen, there was a client of mine that came to us, their website was hacked. Because their website was hacked, they couldn't rank for 8 months in Google. it wasn't that bad that we had to change the domain name, but it was bad enough that it took 8 months to correct all of the issues that happened just because they were hacked. Because when you actually Google their site, it came up with a warning, like, do you want to open this site, like it's been infected or whatever. And yeah, it was a real problem for their business. So you definitely want to make sure that your website's not hacked. Cool. So in summary, do your homework, buyer beware in this industry, and that goes with the ads, it goes with building a website, it goes with mobile sites, it goes with apps, it goes with anything in this industry because it's not properly regulated. And it's the cheapest price what you really want. So just a few things to consider. Any questions? So we're just going to finish up this last section and then we'll have a short break. So just wanted to go through how you guys can measure success for your website, and there's a lot more detail I just really can't go through. But there's a few things you want to consider when you're looking at the traffic on your site. You want to consider how many unique visitors you're getting or sessions, so how many different users are coming to your website. You want to consider the traffic sources. So, did that article you posted on Facebook, did it bring you some good click-throughs? So then you can repeat that sort of success over and over again. And you want to consider referring websites. So are you getting random leads from Afghanistan or things that are unrelated, and why are you getting those? And then you want to consider bounce rate. Are people coming to your homepage and bouncing straight out? Are they going to your services page and leaving straight away? And you want to consider how many pages they're viewing as well. So these are some of the stats that you can see. This is through Google Analytics. We also use AW stats as well, but just gives you an idea of what sort of things you can see. And what you need to know is that results are transparent and measurable. You can measure everything. If you do an ad, another online mining publication, you can see how many click-throughs you're getting from that. So you can basically measure everything. If you do a radio campaign and you use a different domain name, you can see how many people used that when they went to Google. How many people actually Googled your business name compared to generic keywords. For our clients, you actually see sort of how much traffic they got from search engines, how much they got from yellow pages if they're doing it all. Basically see everything. And that's what I was talking about in the keyword streams, how many were industry related and how many knew the company name. Cool. Any questions?
These statistics, is this to do with whether you host it or if we're hosting it ourselves, or I own it, hosting for us or whatever, are they always the same statistics or is it something unique about?
Well, you can put Google Analytics on any website generally, so you can see the same sort of stats with Google Analytics. But
if the pass-through came through Yahoo or somebody else through Google, does it make a difference? Or?
no, you can still measure that. You can measure if they came through Yahoo. You can measure what keyword they used. Yeah. Any other questions?